Hello, our wine of the week this week is biodynamic because we're having a very exciting biodynamic promotion in the shop and online for January and February 2010. There's 15% off any wines that are made this way, so it's a very good opportunity to come in and buy lots of very pure, very delicious wine. We're going to start today with a bottle that comes from the Loire Valley. It's made by a husband and wife team, Pierre and Breton, who coincidentally, whose surname is the same word as is used for the sorry, something alarming just happened to the camera, but I think it's okay, so I'll just keep going. Breton is basically a local name for Cabernet Franc, which is a grape variety that they work with quite extensively, as you would expect, being up in the Loire. The family of Pierre Breton have been in the Loire for generations and generations, so he's very much embedded in the culture there. But when he and Catherine started in 1989, they were very determined to try and do things very naturally, and they are now not only completely biodynamic, so working according to phases of the moon in the vineyards, using lots of very delicious preparations to keep their vines healthy and very rooted in their environment, but they're also part of the growing band of producers in the Loire who don't use any sulfur dioxide in their wines either, so this is absolutely pure. This amazing wine is Cabernet Franc, as I said before. And what's really quite unusually delicious about this is the fact that it's a wine with lots of gutsy, earthy character. I suppose that's unusual now because traditionally most Cabernet Franc from the Loire was incredibly wishy-washy. For a long time, most of it, so wines from places like Bourgeuil or Chinon, etc., was actually sold in wine bars in Paris as the kind of wine you'd get in a carafe and maybe drink at lunchtime or in the evening if you really didn't want anything particularly special but you wanted something nice and cheap. It was often quite pale in colour and in flavour really very wishy-washy. There's also a style that has evolved which certainly isn't wishy-washy but is much more about a silky elegance than about gutsy earthiness, as I've said you find in this wine. This wine, no one would ever, I think, call it silky or elegant, although that's not to say it's not very delicious. It's actually their baby wine, and it's made from fruit that comes from their younger vines, which are grown on gravel. Cabernet Franc and gravel is actually quite a good combination that you find relatively often in the Loire. But again, often for me, there's a kind of smoky, lighter elegance to it, whereas in this example, there's real depth and intensity. They do make some other cuvées which are smarter and more expensive, but this is the one that we think is particularly good value for money and particularly delicious. Incidentally, before I taste it, it's called, the name of the cuvée is Trinch, and it's been called that because that's the sound in French that apparently you make when you bang glasses together. In English, I suppose that would be clink. Which certainly to me sounds a bit more accurate than Trinch. Maybe they're a different glass in France. Let's have a taste of this. I have to confess, I have a terrible cold, so I'd be completely making it up if I started to give you a very long explanation of what I'm tasting. Mainly what's coming through, and this happens often with a cold, when you actually start to lose the nuances of the flavour. But what's coming through is a structure which is quite delicious. There's good acidity, so it's a really lovely, crisp, fresh wine. And there's a really nice velvety texture to it. It's not heavy and it's not overwhelming, but it's not totally light and insubstantial either. From memory, the fruit in this is a lovely, vibrant kind of red fruit, so think cranberries and red currants, etc., with an undertone of something darker, maybe just hints of black cherry. There isn't for me on this wine particularly noticeable herbal characteristics, which you do often find on Cabernet Franc. So there's not much kind of blackberry leaf or green pepper, but that's not a bad thing. It's just beautiful, pure, fresh fruit. And although you might think that makes it sound a bit more summery, it's actually, even in this horrible cold weather, if you really don't want something too rich and overwhelming, absolutely perfect to drink.